What did this one mean to you? Because TV alluded to that you mentioned to them that how you played against them at Reeser while at UCLA was something you mentioned to TV before the game. That didn't sit well with you. So what did this mean to you?
Yeah, as a whole team, it was rivalry week, in-state rival, playing for the community, playing for Phil. So it was a lot of it that played a part. But personally, it was me remembering my 18-year-old self when I played at Oregon State, and I was mentally depressed. Just the way things are going, and everybody knows the struggles that have happened, and I kind of just use that as fuel to make sure that I never get that feeling ever again. So this week I just pushed myself. Coach Lanning, me and him watched my UCLA game, and we were kind of going through like, if I had to call a play here, will it be different? And a lot of plays were just different, but he just kind of told me that that's probably the best thing I've gotten to is just improving, making smarter decisions, putting the ball where it needs to go. So there's a lot of juice that was just, flying around for this game. And of course I got emotional when I was praying before I took the field, and it was just great to get the win for sure.
Dante, with you playing in front of the home crowd in this rivalry game, what did it mean to you not only to get the win, but to play and add those 4 touchdowns and the yards that you put up in this game?
Yeah, it's great when you're always, winning football games. And for like this whole week, we just pushed ourselves at practice and made sure that, the fans and, our teammates and everybody just feel the energy and the juice we're playing, flying around the football field with. And, it was a great performance, but I feel like overall there's a lot of things you have to clean up. And that's a great thing about Sundays is we get to, recover, but also get to learn from our mistakes. So we're excited.
Just announced that College Game Day is going to be in Happy Valley for this next week's game. Now that you're finally here, it's finally Penn State week. What's the anticipation like? How excited are you for this game?
Yeah, I just kind of think of my younger self when I was sitting in front of the TV, seeing a lot of College Game Days, and just understanding that these are blessings that are coming my way. And I feel like as a team, we're going to celebrate tonight, get ready for this upcoming week. But overall, it's always us versus us. We're going to make sure we, learn from our mistakes, and, it's a great environment. As a kid, you always dream about playing there. So we're excited and ready to get going.
Rob on the left. I think externally, a lot of people thought we'll really find out who Oregon is in that Penn State game. You guys have, and that's been the talk since preseason. You guys have gotten where you're at now, gotten off to this start because you haven't had that mentality. But yeah, you can think about this game now. What do you feel like you've shown through 4 games? What have you learned about your team through 4 games going into this matchup?
Yeah, the biggest thing I learned from just us as a team is when adversity hits, we know how to bounce back. That's from just going 3 and out. That's from like a turnover or things that happen. And of course, down the road, there's going to be, many, things that don't go our way. And I feel like overall, we've been facing adversity pretty well when it happens. And we're just having fun with the game of football. I mean, at the end of the day, forget stats, forget fame, forget, many things of that. We just dreamed about being at the University of Oregon, and we're having fun. We're flying around and playing for a brother. So that's kind of the biggest thing we've been, taking away these 4 weeks, and we're excited to keep going.
In the middle, Matt.
Why do you feel like you guys are prepared for this game up against Penn State? Like, what have you guys seen to make you feel confident going into Saturday?
Right now, we're just big on making sure, like I said, we celebrate tonight, recover tomorrow. But, at the end of the day, we're going to watch the film. Coach Lennon is going to push us every day like he always does at practice. Playing in a hostile environment, practice is going to be, really competitive and really tough on us. But at the end of the day, it's, another football game. And, I have trust in my brothers, and they have trust within me. So we're just going to take it as another game. We're traveling in a far trip, but we're excited, and we all dream about this.
All right, John.
Career high for you on the ground today. Most of them coming off scrambles. How do you think that just that threat kind of stresses defenses, being able to add something extra that they got to worry about?
Yeah, they had a lot of great coverages in today. Coach Landon always says you can use your legs as a weapon, go use them. A lot of times, defenses are going to play a lot of shell coverage and get a lot of depth on our routes. And as a quarterback, I'm not the fastest in the world, but if I can make a little play, making something happen, I'm going to go get it done. And, just when I'm running with the ball, of course, just protecting myself. But if I have a chance to go long, I'm going to go long. So, did a great job making sure, turning, no plays into big plays. And we're doing a great job with that.
In the back, Jack.
after the opening drive, the offense seemed to stall a little bit to start the game. When you're going into a game like Penn State next week, how important is it for you and just for the offense to make sure that you guys start off hot? And how important is it just to make sure that you don't have a slower start?
Yeah, all year we've been, doing great with first drives or just, playing, the standard of Oregon football. But, I mean, that's just a game of football. That happens everywhere. It happens in the NFL, high school, college. I mean, of course, that's not what you want. But when them things happen, like Coach Lane always looks at me and tells me certain words to make sure I, relock back in and understand that this is just little adversity, how you're going to bounce back. And I feel like at practice we have a lot of team run periods or periods at practice when things don't go our way. And of course, I can look defeated. The offense can look defeated. But when we have defenses, the defense we have, when we have the coaching staff we have, they're reminders for us to make sure that things aren't always going to go our way. But, they're just there to remind us that them plays are going to happen. And when we have them plays, we got to take our chances. We got to take the shots. And, the run game is always going to be there. So it's a lot to, learn from. But it's just adversity, and it happens to everybody.
Now, Dante, I don't think I'll ever forget the comments you made after the Oklahoma State game about Phil Knight being a part of your family. Now you're wearing the Shoe Duck gear. How does it feel to rep his legacy on the field?
Yeah, I had a chance to actually talk to him after the game. He's getting ready to leave out, and I had to make sure I just come to him and talk to him. I mean, he just has a big impact on this university, but just on the world, just on the person he is, the brand he's built, and just the good soul he is as a person. And I mean, he's done so much for this program, and we had the chance to, of course, honor him, like Coach Lennon said, give him the flowers for what he's done for his university. And I feel like just playing out there, for our brothers, but also playing for Phil and playing for the community. I mean, I'm pretty sure he enjoyed it. We came out victorious, and he always comes to the games, and, we're just excited to have him, as a person that we can call, a family member. So we love him to death. We gave the game ball to him. I mean, this week was for him, and, we love him to death.
How would you assess the growth of the overall synergy between you and your receivers through 4 games?
I like your Jordan 11s, by the way. Of course, appreciate it. Yeah, the receivers this week, I mean, these past weeks, we've been just, when the plays are getting called, they're going to go make the plays, and when the ball's in there, they're going to get the ball. Today, we had a great job throwing a lot of back shoulders and making sure that the receivers can come down with the ball. But when you're at the University of Oregon, you're always going to have playmakers. You're always going to have guys that when the ball's in there, they're going to go get it. Of course, human drops happen. Sometimes you can't get open. But overall, I feel like our communication has been out the roof. Just playing multiple defenses with different coverages. I'm making sure I practice. If I see a certain look, I communicate while watching a film or we're at practice like, hey, in this certain coverage, do this, do that. And I feel like they all do a great job. We have a lot of vets. We have a lot of young guys. And I feel like GB and Malik, they're taking Corey and Coop and everybody under the wing to make sure that, they're getting the best look and, best, certain, things at practice to make sure they're going to be great for the game.
Back left, Brenna.
Penn State had a whole extra week to prepare for you guys. What is that like, knowing that they've had so much time to prepare for you guys going into this game?
Yeah, they have extra preparation, but Coach Lennon's going to make sure we get the amount of preparation we need for this game. We're always going to be prepared. We're going to make sure we push ourselves at practice. Coach Lennon knows the recipe, so we're going to follow him.
Front left, James.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you visited Penn State for their whiteout in 21 against Auburn, right?
Yeah. How do you know that?
I know everything. It's what they pay me for. Be that you did go there. What do you remember about it? And since Bo Nix was playing in that game,
that's crazy.
Did you reach out to him, or will you reach out to him about that experience?
Yeah, I actually Snapchat memories 4 years ago. I think it was yesterday. I was there. It's crazy. Yeah, it was. I had a lot of teammates from high school that played on Penn State. Jalen Reed, Kalen King. They're all in the NFL now. Being able to play there, at the time I didn't know much of Bo, as a person, and of course as a player. And I mean, he was there just throwing a lot of great passes. I forgot who won that game, but he was a competitor. The stadium was really loud, of course, but just understand how composed he was. Of course, I hope I have the chance to talk to him and just see hear his thoughts. And it's just gonna be a great week. It's gonna be a great game. It's gonna be a great environment, hostile environment. But I'm gonna reach out to Bo for sure to see what things he has to tell me.
Middle, Matt.
Tatum talked about how Bryce Betcher sets the tone for this team, especially for the defense. What's it like going against Bryce Betcher every day in practice, and kind of the imprints he had on today's game from your position?
Yeah, Bryce is crazy, man. He's just the guy that you want to be your Mike linebacker. I mean, his communication is amazing. He flies around every day at practice. He was a walk-on at first. He doesn't take none of this for granted. This week was very special for him, and he makes sure every day, I felt his energy. Of course, he's just a great guy at heart, and we love him to death. We call him Mr. Eugene. He's just a guy that came from here, from the ground up, and is very blessed to be where he is. And at practice, he makes great plays. It can be a pick, it can be a tackle, and every day I'm like, thank you, you're my teammate. I hate to play against you, but overall, I just love him to death. He's a great guy, and you have many more great memories to make.
Fourth row middle. 2 more questions.
There was a play early in the second quarter. I think it was 3rd and 8, and it was 7-7. And if you don't convert, you give it back to the Beavers. They have a chance to take the lead. But you threw it up to Malik Benson, and he made a nice catch on the sideline. Extended the drive, and then you guys scored there. Obviously led to 34 unanswered. What's that connection like with Malik to where you can kind of like turn the tide right there and change the game?
Yeah, knowing man-to-man on the outside, just got to give him a chance. When the ball's in there, he's always going to make a play. But, our connection is just unbelievable. We're always on the PlayStation playing 2K together, Call of Duty together. Like, we're always screaming at each other. It can be times where we can be tough on each other, but that's how brothers are. And he makes sure that, he's been to Alabama, been to FSU. He's a Drew Carr product. He's not taking none of this for granted either. So just understanding his story. Today was kind of personal for him. He lost his uncle, and he was, emotional this morning. And I made sure I hugged him, pretty tight, and let him know that I'm always here for him. Things can be very tough in life, and I just know when he's emotional and seeing the tears on his face, I'm like, he's going to, make a lot of great plays today. So got to give him a chance, and, he just used it as fire today. But overall, I love him to death. I love to call him brother. Even though we're not blood, he's still my brother. So I love him to death.
Last question, all right, John.
Coach Lanning said that last week when you guys weren't waiting on those early downs on the ground, and he was really impressed by the way you were able to operate on some of those 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, where you had to actually just drop back and stuff. Today, not as much of that. So how did you feel like the offense was able to set you up to be easier because of the rushing game and what they were able to do early on those downs?
Yeah, he emphasized his 1st and 2nd downs this week. At Northwestern, they weren't, of course, the best. And, those things will happen, but like when those things happen, in the past week, you just got to make sure to attack it the next week. And this week, we made sure that the run game was, critiqued and make sure that we was very, specific on things we needed to get done. But that's just how football works. You can win 1st and 2nd downs, but then you can be a flag or something can happen to where you're 3rd and long. And I feel like this year we've been doing a great job with 3rd down conversions, and it's just because of the way we get our scout team looks at practice, the game plan from Coach Stein, and how confident we are with the game plan. So those things will happen, but, we're just excited, get pushing for next week.